and boom, there's a plot hole in it that nobody else caught. So those are the different types of editing and why they're so important.
Whether you're working with someone or not, as a new author, what if someone thinks that their book is perfect? Doesn't need too much more handling?
I'm going to look at that book and I'm going to tell them exactly what I think. I often say to that new author, this is me being honest. And truth be told, if somebody can't handle that honest opinion, then they're probably not an author that I would choose to work with. I can be rather discerning when it comes to that. There's a lot of marketers out there who are more than willing to take an author's money, but I want to make sure that that book is going to be successful. And I've had it happen many times where the author came to me, they said, oh, I just need a final proofing, and I start looking at it and I realize, you need a developmental editor. Who did your dev edit? What's that? And then I know that unfortunately that author took that manuscript too far, because those stages should be followed. Dev edit, line editing, get some beta readers between those two, copy editing. So if they start skipping those and the manuscript isn't up to par, I'll let them know. If they really are open to learning and accepting the fact that they still need some work with the manuscript, I can either help them with a referral, or a lot of times they might know somebody that they can go to as well.
And maybe just for my own knowledge, just a Reader's Digest version of what is a dev editor, what is a line editor, copy editor?
Oh, sure, yeah. Dev editing, or content editing, as it sometimes is called, is the big picture stuff. This is making sure the whole manuscript comes together, story, plot, characters, big, broad strokes. So you can imagine if those big, broad strokes aren't addressed, it creates a trickle effect all the way down. Because it doesn't matter then how well it was copy edited. Great, you have a manuscript that, everything, all the syntax and punctuation and grammar is good, but you need to go back and totally retool this character's arc, or you need to explain more of this setting. So that's the big content or dev edit. In some cases too, I'll throw in there, I'll sneak in there, sometimes a ghost doctor or ghost editor. We've all heard of somebody who's a ghost editor. Sometimes the line between ghosting, where it's totally writing the book for somebody, and doing that developmental editing can be blurred. In some cases, the author can only get it so far, and just having somebody go in there and fix it up is what they need. Then the next stage, once the story, the big picture stuff, once that's all finished, you can send it out to some beta readers. And maybe you want to send to beta readers in advance. There's different stages where you can send to those beta readers, but beta readers are just that. Folks that are going to read the book and maybe come to you with, I like this part, I didn't like that part. They're not necessarily a developmental editor in the sense that they're going to address the problems and tell you how to fix it. They're just identifying stuff for you. And there's some beta readers who you pay a small fee to. In some cases, you want to ask your Aunt Betty to be your beta reader, or your cousin who's an English teacher. I say that's great, but just take those opinions with a little grain of salt, because sometimes they're going to be a little bit softer than somebody who is just honestly going to give you that feedback. Taking a quick step back too, to like Kirkus and some of those editorial type reviews, another reason why you want to do those far in advance, even farther than that 3 and 4 month deadline I said before. Some of those you can do even 6 months in advance. But it is so that you could also take that editorial review. And if they're identifying any issues, if they come back with a less than stellar review, now you have time to make those fixes. So having some different opinions in there is really valuable. Then the line edit, that's just what it sounds like, going through line by line, looking for the consistency issues, just making sure everything is flowing, has good pacing, etc. Copy editing, I think folks are probably more familiar with that. It's just what it sounds. It's grammar and syntax and spelling, typos, things like that. And then proofing. Proofing is just, it's almost like another copy edit. At that point, they're looking to make sure it is absolutely perfect. I have some hard news for authors. Usually a manuscript, a book, even books that are put out by some of the big publishers have a typo or two in there. Nobody's going to catch everything, but that final proofing a lot of times will catch things that the other editors missed. And one more thing to note, and some editors might not like me saying this, but I think it's important for authors to know too. There are lots of editors out there who can do all the types of editing. And I'm not saying they can't do them. It's all a matter of if they should do it with your manuscript. Because if they're doing the content and the line editing and the copy editing, they themselves start to miss things too. Having a couple of sets of eyes in there. That's why I kind of like to throw those beta readers in there like that. You just get a fresh perspective, something that everybody else missed. And I've seen manuscripts go through all of the editing processes, get all the way to the point where we're getting some of those editorial reviews, which we thought were going to be awesome. And boom, there's a plot hole in it that nobody else caught. So those are the different types of editing and why they're so important.
I love it. I'm jumping ahead maybe slightly here, but is there a beta tester for the cover?
That's a really good question. So with cover design, I always recommend that you find somebody who does covers, not just an artist, because there's a certain skill set to doing covers. And when they do that, a lot of times you can ask for a couple of different mock-ups. And I've done it already where I've gone to, I think for one of our authors, the record was we had 10 different artists all doing at least one mock-up. In the end, that author, of course, wanted somebody else completely different. But in a case like that, the author and us were able to look at all these covers and all of these concepts and decide what she wanted. And it was actually, when she saw them and started, oh, I kind of like this and that, and, then went and found somebody else. But it gave her the vision, especially for folks who might not be visual people. We all learn and understand and perceive our world differently. Authors obviously are dealing with words, but for somebody who's a creative that visualizes things, they don't visualize things, being able to see it is absolutely what they need to decide whether or not they like it or not. So in cases like that, yeah, you can get lots of different comps and decide from there. If you're with one of the a publisher though, like one of the bigger publishers or maybe a small indie press, again, it kind of varies a little bit. Generally speaking, they're going to have their cover designer do the artwork for you, and the author loses a little bit of their control when that happens.
And just as a follow-up, I get that romance novels will have, two very good-looking people on it, but in terms of something that's maybe, let's say, a vacation sort of memoir or whatever, it could be a fictional recount of a trip or something, would it be best to not actually do anything where there's a person on the cover and just have it a drawing of, let's say, the Greek, Isles or something? I mean, or the, sort of the Greece, Mm-hmm. So, something that wouldn't eliminate one reader versus the next.
The genre matters. So you mentioned romance in there, and I think we all know what those bodice ripper covers look like, and you got the hunky guy with the chest, and you might think to yourself, why do they always do that? Because it always sells the books. That's the expectation of the reader. When the reader sees that, it's branding, right? They know exactly what they're going to get out of that book. So different genres and different trends in publishing change over time. So one of the pieces of advice I would give to an author who might be on the self-publishing side or working with somebody where they have the say in the cover design, one of the first things that you should do is go look at those covers in your genre. What are some of the trends and the colors that they're using? The horror genre, for example, generally you want something dark, got greens in there. Usually it's like a lime green or a purple. Purple can be spiritual or supernatural, something along those lines. So look at the colors and the styles. Is it a spy novel? I think we all know, we visualize right away the running man on the spy cover, right? It's like the guy running and maybe he's dropping a gun, or he's got a gun. It's a silhouette. So, a stick figure in that sense, people are going to identify, ooh, that's a spy novel, or that's the running man. But even then, looking at what they're doing in contemporary fiction matters as well. So see where those trends are going in your genre to really get a feel for what your cover should be. I also think that sometimes authors kind of have this vision in their head of what their cover should be, and getting a few different artists to throw some ideas at them can really help them not only pull it all together in their head, but again, offer some different perspectives and things that they might not have thought of. And if that cover designer, if that artist really knows their industry and knows the market, they can be a real asset to that author.
And lastly, have you seen where a cover has gone to market, the book's been out, and it's not selling well, and they change the cover and it completely changes the trajectory of the book?
It can definitely happen. And if you actually look at a lot of fiction, if you look at a book that's been on the market for a while, if you just Google it, you'll probably see different iterations of that cover. Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale comes to mind, and I think it's rather iconic. We can visualize the red robe and the white bonnet, right? But I've seen that motif done in different ways on her covers, because now that book has been out for a little while. So sometimes changing it up, to your point, absolutely can revitalize the sales of that book. Another thing that folks can do too, depending upon, it works really well with nonfiction, but fiction can do it as well. So if you have a book that came out a few years ago and there's some new information that you want to add to that book, times change, information gets updated, you can do a second edition. We've all seen second editions of books as well. So sometimes, if it's been a few years and you want to breathe new life into a title, you can bring out a second edition. You can then change up the cover and give it a new look and feel. Add a couple of chapters. I think the percentage is supposed to be 17% different for it to officially be a second edition, though I know of nobody who has ever gone through and measured that. But what I advise to authors that might be considering kind of refreshing their book, giving it a new cover, it's like if you're going to do that and the book has been out for a while, you might as well come out with a second edition, make some changes. Even authors who might have released a book, I'm working with a couple of them right now, released a book a while back, self-published it, then they found a publisher, so they retooled the story, they have a new book cover, and it's like the book is coming out anew.
And would they have to then go to the Library of Congress or to do you would do a new version of your copyright?
Yeah. So you want to get a new ISBN number, a new Library of Congress number. Publishers, again, generally can help you with that. Small presses can too. So can hybrid. I always caution authors, though, to own your own ISBN because you don't want to give control of your IP to somebody else. But all of that is relatively easy to do. You can go to Boker to get your ISBN. There's, you have to register and do the Library of Congress number. But you kind of want to have everything fresh and new. You want this to look and feel like a whole new book.